Victress FM, brought to you by Victress Entrepreneurs. Here's your host, single mum, entrepreneur and brain injury survivor, Michelle Williams.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Victress FM, where every week I'll be introducing you to inspiring women who have gone after their dreams and refused to give up even in the face of extreme adversity. We'll be diving into her victories and her defeats and discovering the lessons that she's learned along the way, all with the aim of inspiring you to step into your own unique power to create a business and life that you love. And today I was joined by the fabulous Gaia, founder of FlamingGaia.com, who through her holistic design and self-help approach helps high potential change makers and frustrated corporate troublemakers to find their inner worth and develop sustainable businesses so that they can finally create the meaningful impact that they want to see in their community and beyond. During this episode, we talk about Gaia's early self-destructive struggles with eating disorders, exercise addiction and self-harm, and the catalyst that motivated her to take control and become the owner of her own destiny, transforming her from victim to victress entrepreneur. Gaia has so many words of wisdom to offer about what steps we can all take to reframe our perspective, change our choices, and to become the victress of our own lives. I found this interview with Gaia so inspiring, and I know that you will too. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Victress FM, where I'm delighted to invite today Gaia onto the show. Welcome, Gaia. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me.
I'm so delighted because, as you know, this show is all about celebrating women's triumph over adversity, and I'm really interested in exploring the process that we go through in moving from victim to victress. And when I say that, I mean, obviously a victress is a woman that's victorious. And I know that you've got a really inspiring story of triumph over adversity. And so I'm really interested today in exploring some of the challenges that you've been through in your life and how you feel these have influenced you on your entrepreneurial journey to get to the point that you are today. So do you mind sharing a little bit of your victress story with us today, please, Gaia?
Absolutely. I'm happy to, especially if it can help others. So my story begins when I was little. So my parents they had a rough start between them, and they separated pretty much as soon as I was born. That was not a very healthy relationship within them. My mom had borderline traits, but I didn't know until my 20s, and my dad was not that much of a present person. But when he was around, for example, my mom was all over him, was very dedicated to him, and that was very weird to me. I couldn't understand what was going on. I tried to have a relationship with both of them. In the end, it didn't work out because I built up tons of anger towards what was going on, the fact that I couldn't mention what was going on around in the family to outsiders, because, you know, I grew up in Italy, in Venice, and that's a typical environment where things have to be kept in the family, especially dirty laundry things. And it was very hard to relate to others. I was also an outsider because I'm not baptized, and the whole community there is Catholic, so that built up a lot of bullying and very unusual situations with parents as well. They wanted me to go to church and stuff. So besides that, so the anger that built up turned out I didn't want to be angry with my parents, so in some way I imploded and turned anger towards myself. I tried to destroy myself, like from the age of 16 up to 25 in several different ways, essentially. Either doing eating disorders of any kind. I was a period anorexic, I was bulimic, I was binge eating. I do extreme exercises to be perfect, to keep up the perfect appearance that was supposed to be out there. And at the same time, it wasn't something that I wasn't aware of. I knew exactly what I was doing to myself. I was self-harming as well, and I knew exactly what was going on. So at a certain point, it was a matter of taking what I was doing and trying to get an understanding. I went, my mom forced me to go to psychologists twice. The first two were not very relevant because they just decided that my parents were the fault of everything, but I knew I had choices. I knew that what I was doing was my choice. I knew that I was destroying myself because I wanted to.
Yeah.
So the root of everything for me was a certain point, turning myself into kind of like a specialized eating disorder psychology center, and every week going there with the motivation of understanding what was behind all the pain and everything that I pulled myself through.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you understood kind of what you were doing to yourself, and you came to the realization that it was a choice. You had a choice of how you behaved towards yourself. So how did you turn that around? Because obviously that's really what I'm interested in exploring, that whole process of how we go from, a victim to victress, because I love that word choice, because it's to me such a powerful word, and that's really what I want to get across in this show, is that we all do have a choice. So can you just expand a little bit about how you turn things around?
Absolutely. So when you turn them to, there are two sides of things. So choice can lead to like bad choices for oneself, which is just a behavior. It's not a matter of the person, but it's a behavior, or good choices. I exactly remember that moment when I decided that I was going to take bad choices for myself, which was the moment when just my mom, before I had any eating disorder, before everything, she was already pushing me a lot towards eating because I never ate enough for her. And then at a certain point, I was out with my parents for a pizza, and it was a great night. Like, it was the first night of going on holidays, and I was totally happy. After the pizza, I just went to the toilet. I came back to the table, and my mother just burst out in this scene and decision that I went to the toilet to throw up the pizza because I just wasn't eating. So that was the moment when inside me just clicked, like, I could do anything that is good or bad to myself, and it doesn't matter because she has already decided what I do. So for her, I'm not taking my own choices. She is taking them for me. So I started to take them for myself in the bad sense. That's the summer when I started doing eating disorders, for example, and throwing up. So that was kind of the beginning. And then the moment that I decided that there were some things more important than what I was going through, that's the moment when I turned to better choices. And that's when I realized that I was hurting my best friend, for example, in doing what I was doing. That exact moment happened years later when I was at a very, very low point. I had just starved myself for pretty much like 6 months. I was down to 40 kilos, which is about, I think, 80, 90 pounds. This friend of mine had been with me for years. He had been going through my ups and downs. He never took responsibilities for not helping me further because it wasn't his responsibility. He was a teen like I was. But there was a moment when I met up with him, and he just told me like, oh yeah, my grandma died, or maybe I heard it from a third person. And I asked him, why didn't you tell me? I mean, his grandma was such a grand part of his reality, and I knew how attached he was to it. So I wanted to be with him, and he was like, why should I tell you? You wouldn't be there anyway. So that was my choice, like, okay, that was kind of like my first epiphany, and it had such a massive impact on me, realizing that I surely took bad choices for myself.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to express my anger. I wanted to find a way out, which was not a great way out. But I had the choice also to make things better for others. That meant being there for the people that I loved and being there for just supporting them and everything. And that was a massive turning point. The choice for me was to find something greater than myself to turn to.
Yeah. So you kind of, from what your friend said, it was almost like he didn't tell you of his huge loss and grief because he just thought you were too wrapped up in your own bad choices and anger, whatever we want to call it, to actually be there for him and his problems. So it's almost like, would you say that was your rock bottom moment?
Yeah, I had tons of rock bottoms. No, there is not just one. But sure, that was one of the most impactful. I mean, sometimes when you're in such a state of, you're really egotistical. It's just about yourself. It's just about your feelings. It's just about everything. That period was also a period when definitely, for example, the behavioral traits that my mother had with borderline disorder came through me as well. And just by listening to stories of others, either later on or when they were throwing my behaviors toward my face, is the moment when I started seeing them. And that's the moment when you start realizing all the rock bottoms that you had. For example, the moment when you have to binge so much that going to the supermarket, you buy tons of stuff that you would just eat and throw up or whatever, and you don't have enough money to pay for it. So what would happen before is that I just lightly sink and like, oh, who cares? Maybe it's gonna be another time. But those moments are just piling up, and you start noticing them, like, oh, that's bad. That's really bad. And those are a few of the rock bottoms that I hit.
So it was more of a light bulb moment. You got a realization of what you were doing to yourself and understanding that the choices that you were making were not good choices. Because you mentioned in the little bio that you sent over to me that you learned to become the owner of your own destiny, which I love, because I do believe we can all be the owners of our own destiny. So many people coast through life letting life happen to them, but I do believe that we can be the owner of our own destiny. So how did you evolve to that point, and what did you go on to do?
Well, the first thing was leaving university, which was a major disruption for my family and friends and everything, because I was doing physiotherapy at that time, and I kept up the appearance that everything was fine, for example, until the moment that I broke down, and I just decided, you know what, if I have to do and start doing things for myself, I have to start doing something that I love, which is not physiotherapy, which is nothing related to fixing things, fixing the body. That was one of the first moments, starting to really own up to what I wanted and what I knew it would be good for me. One of the light bulbs, as you call them, was when it's not just being egotistical again, it's just really being honest with oneself and seeing what are you doing that is going to have good outcome, not only for you but for everybody else, and what would not be that. So for example, when I left university, I knew that I needed to do something creative, because that was who I was before everything started. I poured myself into creativity every time, even afterwards when I had anger, either drawing or painting and everything. So I knew that was part of my path. And that was one of the first moments when I just realized, okay, I need to go into a completely different direction, no matter what other people and outsider voices are telling me, and no matter what my inner voice, which still didn't believe in anything that was going through, because of course you have all the self-confidence issues in your head, and you have all the self-worth issues in your head. So the inner voice was also telling me like, oh, you're crazy, you will never make it. But there is a smaller voice inside that says, just do it, try it, and go for it.
So from this, do I understand then? So you went to university and you were taking the path towards doing physiotherapy. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so how did you choose that path in the first place, or do you feel that path was kind of chosen for you?
But I needed something that would let me out of the home environment as soon as possible.
Right.
And physiotherapy was my way out. Essentially what happened is that physiotherapy in Italy is 3 years course, and then afterwards it's like a paramedic it's a paramedic university course, and after 3 years you have a job. So it was my shortest way out with a good degree.
Right, okay. But it wasn't, the fact that you've kind of changed your path is you feel that wasn't kind of your soul's calling. You felt like there was a different path that you were meant to be following. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And especially because after 6 months or so that I started university, with the mission in mind, I will just use the 3 years to get out of the house, the family house. The situation in the family and with my mom broke down completely, and in 2 weeks I left home. So I found another location and I moved out. So I didn't have the mission anymore of leaving the household the moment that I already went out. And that's also the moment when I started to take choices for myself. I think probably that was actually the light bulb, Michelle. That was the starting moment, like, okay, if things have to change, they have to start from a change within myself. And when I left my home, that was the first change.
Yeah. So you decided to change your path and follow, it sounds like follow something inside you that you're talking about, that you always felt sort of creative. So what is it then that you have gone on to do, and how do you think that the adversity that you've been through has influenced you to take that new path?
I went on to art portfolio school. It's called Miami the School, and it's in Hamburg, and that totally changed my life in the way that the people in the school were super talented. I went to the school to do art direction, which is a lot of graphic design and innovation ideas and concept and branding and business development as well. And what happened is the fact that pretty much I didn't know how to use a Mac the first day that I started the school. And I was with people that were at a much higher level than me. They were really people that knew how to, for example, use Photoshop at an excellence and stuff like that. So what totally changed me was an environment where people that were extremely talented were next to me, and I could learn from them.
Yeah.
They were humble as hell. They were uber talented and humble as hell. And what was great for me was the fact that no matter which really bad situation we would be in, because there were times when we had to work like 5 days straight with no sleep and stuff, it was an environment where everybody was supporting each other. And that helped me first coming out of my shell and deciding like, okay, this is my path, that's what I love. I want to help others, build up others up. And that's what I definitely learned from them, from the people that I had around, besides the learnings from the school, which was advertising and branding. And that's all the things that matter in actually creating something that has a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you feel then, because you had these people around you that were encouraging you, supporting you, helping you to learn new things, that really helped feed your self-esteem and confidence as well?
Yes, but the confidence and self-esteem is nothing that somebody else can give you.
Absolutely.
Has to come from the inside. So forever I've been somebody that wants to start at the top level, even if it's not good. And that was I wasn't comparing myself to others. I was comparing myself to myself 2 months before.
Yeah.
So that's my self-esteem. Somebody can be an inspiration. Somebody can be a role model for you, but they can't give you they can help you and they can support you in finding a path for you, finding encouragement, and give you, again, like support and everything. But your self-confidence has to come from the knowledge that you are good at what you're doing. And believe me, Michelle, I'm still struggling with it sometimes. There is like the imposter syndrome that comes up. For example, even being here with you and discussing about it, like, oh my God, maybe I'm not that great. Maybe I haven't done enough.
But everybody has that imposter syndrome, don't they? It doesn't
exactly.
matter what level you reach. And there's something else that you kind of wrote in the bio that you sent across to me. You put, I don't think of Victress as someone who's perfect every moment of every day. I think of Victress as someone who knows her faults and shortcomings and that integrates them into her daily life, either transforming them in valuable lessons or improving them day after day. And I love that. I love what you put there. And I think what you're just talking about nobody else can give you your self-worth and confidence, it's so true. Because from my point of view, I believe it's about our own self-growth and actually perhaps taking on challenges that we don't think we're capable of and learning. And you mentioned something about comparing yourself to who you were 2 months ago. And I think that's a great way to describe it, because I think we get our self-worth from our own personal journey of self-growth and development. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The last year and a half, for example, was extremely brutal for me, because I after the school, it has been 8 years since the school now, but after the school, I kept on traveling and working for global agencies as an art director. I did realize that it was not my path, so I turned into something social. I went, for example, to London, at a prison in London, and volunteered for a design project and mentored and co-design a design course in prisons. And then that I felt that was like my calling to help social enterprises. After 1 year of doing it, it was great as like spiritual reward, but as financial, I needed to go back to do a job that would actually support me in supporting others. And I took a job at a studio in Germany. I don't want to name it, it's not the point of this. But what happened is that the environment in the studio and the people that I met in the studio, especially the boss, was extremely toxic for me. The person had a behavior that reminded me a lot of my mother when I was a child, and it broke me down. Pretty much I spent 1 year and a half in a very bad mental state. This person was somebody that represented everything I thought I overcame, but it didn't happen. After 1 year or so, my doctor noticed that, and they warned me to take some time off, warned me to just do something besides work that would actually make me happy, because I was secluding myself, I was not taking care of myself anymore. And when everything finished and I left the job, I took the chance of leaving the job, because that's something that, for example, I wouldn't expect it to do. But I left the job and I moved here in the Netherlands. That was in Germany, the studio and everything that went. And for the first month and a half, which is pretty much now, I'm still recovering from that, because I think I failed myself. I failed myself in letting somebody else overpower me, as it happened again and something. But it doesn't matter, because what I know now is the fact that even if that situation happened, I decided to turn it around for myself and decided to start this own business. Took the calling that I had before, going for only a financial solution, and go into something that still is greater than myself, and is greater than money, and is greater than a title, and is greater than anything. So that's the daily issue, you know. The moment when you're like,
But do you think that sometimes though these challenges are put in front of us to actually, you know, you call it a failure. You said it was a failure because you let somebody else, I don't know how you worded it, but influence your thoughts or. Yeah. But sometimes do you think that these challenges are put in front of us to actually prompt us to take a new path anyway? Because that's certainly something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Yeah, so sometimes these bad things happen to actually, it's almost like the universe or whatever you believe in, giving you clues, isn't it, to where you should be heading, where your future should be. So, so it sounds like that was perhaps, although it is a horrible thing that you went through in that toxic sort of work environment, it's the thing that's now put you onto your entrepreneurial path, doing something which it sounds like is you believe is your true purpose and your true path. So can we go into more detail then about, you know, what you are doing now, and you know, and how you feel that is your purpose and how you're helping other people?
So at the beginning, it's just the beginning of the start of this business. So I don't want to say that it's a major thing at the moment yet, because it wouldn't be realistic. It's a continuation of what I've done between 2016 and 2018, which was supporting social enterprises in finding their inner resources and inner values, current values, and developing into a business that would actually make the changes that they wanted. So it could either be through business development, it could be to creating a website, it could be to do rebranding, just creating something that would push them into the right direction. What I learned during these 8 years of career in different paths, I've been doing advertising and marketing, I've been doing business development and mentorship, and the last years it was also focused on UX design, so web design and service design. It made me understand that you can't separate all the different parts. You have to take them as a whole, because as you take a person as a whole, you should take an enterprise as a whole and understand what are the issues that an enterprise or a company or a person is undergoing. And when you find the roots of them, then you can find the solutions. So to me, it's more of a holistic approach. It's not like, oh, you need a site or you need Facebook ads or something like that, because it doesn't work. If problems are there are the roots of the problems that have to be tackled before understanding what are the right solutions to be implemented.
And I love that holistic approach, because, you know, the tagline for Victress Entrepreneurs is for women who are victorious in business and in life, because we are our businesses. So if we've got personal challenges, they're going to affect our business, and kind of vice versa, really. You know, it's so when you have your own business, it's so much part of your life. So so I love what you're doing and your journey. I just wanted to ask you, you know, obviously, you know, we all have these demons that we fight. We talked about the imposter syndrome, limiting self-beliefs, these stories that we tell ourselves, and they're ongoing. I think we all have them. It doesn't matter who we are in the world or who we are in life. But do you have any daily rituals or routines or anything that you do that keep you in that positive frame of mind focused on always striving to be the best version of yourself and really to continue on that journey of self-growth and improvement?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and that's super good that actually we're talking about it, because as you said, Michelle, having something that is daily is what can help to sustain the growth. Instead of, one of my biggest issues in general is being consistent to something. I have tons of ideas and tons of projects that I want to work on, so sometimes I just throw myself in something that I love, but then it's gonna last, I don't know, like just a little bit of time. So I had to learn to be constant on something that was a bigger thing for business. One of the things that, for example, I do every day is waking up and just giving grateful thoughts for 3 things that I want to be grateful for that specific day.
Yeah.
It could be something that a person that I love, it could be something that I'm going through, it could be just remind myself of what I've been through, and so that whatever comes next is gonna be easier, at least because I know that I passed everything else.
Yeah.
And that's the first. So that's my morning ritual. Other rituals that I take every single day, or that I decide to take every single day, is to be attentive towards friends and towards what they might be going through as well. So if somebody writes me, instead of, for example, answer them in, I don't know, in 2 months or in 2 weeks, I try to be connected with them the moment that it happens.
Yeah.
It happened a couple of weeks ago, and even if I have business to do, or even if I have work to do, I know that I have to be there for these people. There are not a lot of them. I'm very social as a person, but I have a close amount of friends because my psychologist, I didn't know why, and then the last year when I went to some therapy sessions to adjust what went through with work, the psychologist told me that apparently I'm high sensitive as a person, which means that I enjoy the company of one-to-one, and I don't have a big social gathering, because I really want to get to know the person that I'm with.
Yeah.
So when it happens that these few people reach out, it could be also my mom, because now I have a good relationship with her, or my dad, because that same happened, a lot of forgiveness went through. And that's actually a daily thing to do, forgiveness to yourself and to the others, but especially to yourself for everything that you think you've done wrong when it was actually your own truth.
Yeah.
So when these people come up, I want to give time to them. And that's important. A couple of weeks ago, it happened that a friend of mine who had been going through lots of ups and downs and some depression last year, he had a very bad encounter and very bad day. So for that afternoon, I decided to kind of gave him tasks to do. And as long as he had to fulfill these tasks, he had to just send me back a picture of what he was doing. And he told me like, oh no, you shouldn't be doing it. I don't need to be babysitted. You don't have to do this for me because I don't want to bother you. And that's the moment, just like, it's not bothering, it's being there for the other person. I kept doing my business the rest of the day. I kept fixing my website. I kept contacting possible clients. But the moment that he would write me and he would send me a picture, I knew that it was important for me to answer right away and tell him, okay, so this is what you've done. That was great. Now what's the next task to do in your list for today? And that's what went on. So that's something daily.
Yeah, to be present for the people.
Yeah, and for myself.
Yeah, I love that. So obviously with the adversities that you have been through in your life, what would you consider then to be your biggest triumphs in life, would you say?
just at the top of my head, gaining a relationship with my parents, it's a massive thing.
Yeah.
Because when I grew up, I didn't think I could have it. There was so much, not hate, just hate as well.
Yeah.
I have to say it.
Yeah.
But there was so much, just I didn't want to be with them. I wanted to be out. I would be happy some situation just went away like a breeze. And now I'm rediscovering them. I'm learning my past towards them and through them. And that's really important. I actually asked both of them to either kind of like write down or having a conversation with me about the past of the families. So what are our origins, and taught me a lot of who I am through my DNA, let's say in this way. And that's a massive triumph, because again, I would never seen the day when my mom was sick and I wanted to be there for her. Or I would have never imagined a day when my dad would call me to do a chat and I would be happy to talk to him, and he would tell me something that, I don't know, he had told me like for 20 years so far, and instead of shrugging my shoulder and say, oh my God, another time, I would just be like, it's dad. And that's how he does his own things, and I have to appreciate what he gives me, and that's all I can ask.
And obviously that's been a journey in itself. And do you, I mean, obviously you've talked about that you've got help with this along the way, but are there any books or anything, or podcasts or audio files or anything that have really helped you or inspired you, again, from moving to what I call that victim mindset to victress mindset and getting you to where you are today?
Yes, definitely. I consider I believe knowledge to be the tool for somebody to understand what's going on. It's just me. I need to understand things to get my head around and see maybe also my situation mirrored into somebody else's life. So, for example, movies had a major impact on me, because watching movies that represented some situation that I've been through were a massive eye-opening, like, oh, now I can understand how I'm feeling, but especially I'm understanding how other people around me are feeling towards the things that I'm doing. As far as books, something I'm a huge not fan, but like supporter of conscious work on oneself. So the work by Byron Katie, for example, is something that I would definitely suggest to do. It's a framework to let your anger and thoughts that are upsetting you towards somebody come out, and try to understand how much of what is upsetting you of the other person is actually part of a behavior that is upsetting a person in oneself. So if somebody, I don't know, is nagging me and I hate the nag, how much am I nagging others? And how much of that nagging can I change in myself? So it's a framework to understand one's perception of things and give forgiveness to oneself, to be, I don't know, again, more understanding. And that's one thing. As far as grief, the recent Sheryl Sandberg book Option B was extremely important last year when my mom was sick. And that book, it's talking about something that is extremely relevant in our overall culture, and and it's about speaking, being empathic towards somebody that is going through grief, but especially having the courage to speak to them as if they were normal people and not shame them for getting divorced, for having somebody that dies, for all the things that life can put them through. So
yeah,
very relevant.
It's sometimes really powerful, isn't it? Some of these books and self-help books and things like that to kind of move us from kind of where we are to where we want to be. And so I guess one of the questions I had for you as well is kind of how do you feel that some of the challenges that you have been through have shaped you into the person that you are today, and particularly from an entrepreneurial point of view with this, with starting your business?
For sure, I start to understand that it's more about being at service than about me. So it definitely increased active listening skills that I had, and made me want to not to stay at the surface of things. So, for example, when talking to a client and seeing how clients, just looking at the expressions, looking at the wording that he's using, you're looking at the tonality, understanding the body language of the other person, and trying to negotiate with the other person, not about a goal that I want to reach, but what the other person is going through.
Yeah.
So are they showing me, for example, that they have power because they are afraid of losing it? Are they afraid of something that is in their mind and in the imagination that could happen? Do they have some issues at home? Just about the other person. So that's a massive part. And another important step in everything that I've been going through, and that's really great for entrepreneurship, is resilience. So if somebody, and not taking things personally and make fun of things, not just fun, like, just taking oneself less seriously. Because even we having this great chat, Michelle, and it's about conquering and it's about becoming great, but at the same time, keeping a smile on your face when you're doing it, it's a great invitation to just be happier in whatever path you're taking.
Yeah.
It's very funny sometimes. For example, you're reaching out to clients or you're talking to people and they're having bad comments on social media, is filled up with bad comments, and I can decide, am I taking this personally, or am I just gonna take maybe a positive side of what they're saying and answering them in a positive direction? Or with clients that don't answer, am I getting angry because they're not doing it, or will I just try to be more understanding? All the time that somebody is rejecting and push it down, is it something that I take it as a personal thing, or should I just say, you know what, not even their loss, but just that's not the case to go on with that person, I should go on with somebody else.
Yeah, sometimes it's like reframing things and also taking the lessons from things, isn't it? Just kind of reframing things. Yeah. So, I mean, in light of everything that you have been through, if you could give your younger self like a really good piece of advice, what would that be?
Very deep question. I think, Michelle, that the thing that I will tell my younger self is that she is loved, and she is loved, and that would be enough. That the love that she receives from maybe not the people that she has around at that moment, but the love that she will receive in the future, it's enough to be enough at that specific moment. So she shouldn't be afraid of showing how she is and who she is, and she shouldn't be afraid of being rejected because there's somebody else that will accept her for who she is, and that everything that she will go through is just gonna increase her chances to be more empathic toward people.
I love that. I really love that. So now we are going to have to draw it to a close very soon, but I just want one last question I wanted to ask you. You know, in light of everything you have been through and the business that you have gone on to create, with that business and what and your vision, I guess, your life's vision of and your life's purpose, what kind of difference is it that you feel that you most want to make in the world with your business and your whole vision?
One thing that I noticed towards my past is the fact that most people that are in business are doing it for not the wrong reason, just very selfish reasons. They want to build something that is good for them.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do with mine and what I want to do with mine, I would love to see implemented and see as an inspiration from the way that I think, not just my business, but the way that I think and the way that I'm handling things, is that they decide to be egotistical for the community. So instead of saying, hey, everything that somebody does in the end is for oneself, but I can choose to do it in a positive direction, or I can choose to do it in a complete selfish direction. So, for example, if somebody does community work, they can do community work for Instagram and pictures, or they can do community work because it's really self-fulfilling for them, and they know that by doing it is making a better life for others. I'm trying to turn towards the second part. So when creating a business, for example, talking to some clients, one of the last clients that I had, they asked me to do one specific thing, and I investigated a little more, discussing with them on what their situation was and what their really needs were. And at the end, we agreed that I was not the right fit for them, because they would just pay me for doing a thing that it would be redone in 2 months at a bigger scale. So my point is, just try to do something that is more valuable on a bigger
I totally get what you're saying, because I think at the end of the day we're all here to positively impact other people's lives, and you know, certainly my whole vision for Victress Entrepreneurs is because I really want to inspire, educate and empower women, and you know, and I love the personal development journey that we go through as entrepreneurs, because we learn so much about ourselves and the empowerment and independence that it can give us, and I just really want hopefully by uncovering all of these Victresses like you that have they've gone through tough times, but we come out fighting. We might not feel strong and victorious all the time, but it's a constant evolution, and it's really to hopefully inspire women that we all have choices. Like we went back to when you mentioned, we all have choices of how we respond to life's challenges, and we all have choices of the behavior and the actions that we take, and we can choose to take negative actions, or we can choose to take positive actions that will move us forward and really empower us. So I totally understand what you're saying there, and I love what you said. We are going to have to draw to a close now, but for anybody that wants to find out more about you and your business, which is, I hope I can pronounce this correctly, but your website, Flamingaia, is that right? www.flamingaia.com. I was worried about the pronunciation.
It's right.
So if anybody would like to connect with you and find out more, how can they go about doing that, Gaia?
So they can definitely reach out to my website, which is www.flaminggaia.com. And that's the portfolio site and gives an understanding of who I am and what I can provide as services. And they can also reach out to my Instagram account, which is, again, just Flaming Gaia. And that's really easy.
Yeah.
These are the two of them. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to include in the show notes, obviously, links to your website and to your social media channels, and also over on the Victress Entrepreneur's website. I'll make sure that all of those links are included as well. But I just want to thank you so much, Gaia, for spending the time with me and my Victress FM listeners today, because I know your story will inspire so many people, because I think, you know, we all go, whenever we have a problem in our lives, we're not alone, because there's always other people going through something similar. And so I think by sharing, you know, our stories of adversity and our stories of, you know, how we have triumphed over those adversities, I hope will really inspire people, and I'm sure that your story will. So thank you so much, Gaia, for joining me today.
Thank you, Michelle. That was great. And thank you for those questions. They were really deep and didn't expect it, but loved them. Thank you so much for letting me share my story. And for everybody else to reach out, feel free to. We're happy to share more.
Thank you so much. And I will certainly keep in touch with you and connect with you again very soon. Thank you. I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye for now, Gaia.
Bye-bye.
And to you, our wonderful Victress FM listeners, I hope that you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have. Don't forget, if you want to find out more about Gaia, please either check out the show notes or head over to victressentrepreneurs.com, where all of our podcast guests are featured on our website. Please also check out all of our amazing free resources to help you through each stage of starting, launching and growing your business. And don't forget to subscribe to Victress FM on iTunes or Stitcher to make sure that you don't miss out on another inspiring episode. But until next week, stay victorious.
You're listening to Victress FM. Victress Entrepreneurs, for women who are victorious in business and in life.